Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to us. We would love to hear your comments and your questions. And we welcome Michael to the show.
Thank you, sweetie. Delight to be here. Delight to have the opportunity one more time to support the world and, of course, ourselves in learning the ancient Aramaic technology of forgiveness. We're in St. Louis, where it's a gorgeous sunny day, bright blue skies, a few little clouds floating around. Thank goodness the heat wave has cracked open, and temperatures have been pretty nice here in St. Louis. And I'm actually sitting in the car right now with Adeline Nora. We're on babysitting detail with new grandbaby, who's now 8 months of age. First time we've seen her since December in her newborn phase. So we're getting lots of baby time in and just getting to spend time with our daughter Krishna and her husband Aaron. And we're here being with this newborn, 8 months of age, still in that fresh stage of this awesome active presence of love. And what our work is about is to bring a space of safety and support for we living as humans on planet Earth. Kind of a rare thing to find a human being today. Lots of forms that look human, but if you hold a newborn child, you get a sense of what human life really is. It is obviously the active presence of love. And the world goes to work on us as quickly as possible to remove that and put us into its mode, the mode of hostility, rage, grief, fear, and pain. And what we're looking to do is to restore the state of human life to planet Earth. Now, one of the games that the mind plays is, the only reason I'm not living lovingly, the only reason I'm not talking lovingly to you right now is because of something you did. It's all your fault. I have no responsibility whatsoever because I'm in this rage or this grief or this pain. It's all about you. And that is the ultimate lie of what we call the non-being mind. You'll notice that every time you've been through a particular painful reality, 87 different times with 42 different people, you're the only one that was there every time. Guess what? Your painful realities are all about you. They have nothing whatsoever to do with anybody else. And we're getting to hear from the peanut gallery back here. Has decided she's going to make a little bit of noise. So if you can hear that voice, that's Adeline Nora in the background. And we're out here in St. Louis. So oh, goodness sakes, what just happened? Anyway, we're here to support that human life expressing in our world and in our physiology. And the main tool that we're going to use to do that is a tool called forgiveness. And our culture has taught us a backward idea about forgiveness. It's taught us that I forgive you for what's happening inside of me because, of course, what's happening inside of me has nothing to do with me. It's all your fault. And if I believe that lie, then I go around letting other people off the hook because of what's happening inside of me, and I never get to own, address, or change what's happening inside of me. So our work together is that of learning that if I'm in pain, there's something going on inside of me that's of error, and it's my opportunity to correct or to heal my error. And when you recognize that, then you begin to truly apply the original principle of forgiveness. And the original principle of forgiveness is not about letting other people off the hook for what's happening inside of you. The original idea of forgiveness is how you change the hostility or fear response that comes from inside of you when someone violates your goals. You'll notice that you're never upset at anybody while they're doing everything you want them to do. You have goals for them, and if they're looking at you, talking to you, doing what you want them to do, notice that you're relatively happy with them. But the minute that they stop doing what you want them to do, the minute they violate a goal that you have for them, notice that you tend to go into some form of hostility or fear. And you may want to avoid them, you may want to verbally, emotionally, maybe even physically abuse them, depart from them, get rid of them, whatever. And so once you recognize that that's where the challenge lies, then you realize, as you start to engage in the internal process of forgiveness, that whenever you load a goal into your mind that links to something based in hostility or fear in you, and then someone violates that goal, the hostility or fear arouses from within you, and it's your opportunity to recognize, this has got something to do with me. And it's my goal that links to my hostility or fear that is the key way that allows me to change that part of my mind that holds the hostility or fear. And so to engage in the forgiveness process, we'll invite you to go to our website. Our new website is up. It's not all perfect yet. If you run into challenges with the links, we'd appreciate it if you'd just drop us an email to let us know, and we'll get it fixed and corrected right away. You can hear the little singer's voice in the background. That's Adeline Nora. And so we'll invite you to go to www.whyagain.org, O-R-G, and on that website, if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, we've got a whole new layout now, you'll see a note that says Start Here. Click that link. That will take you into the how-to of forgiveness. And you'll find there an explanation of what order to use the worksheets in, how to use them. Start working with the 7-step reality management. There are 5 different radio shows, and each of those radio shows walk a person through the whole process of forgiveness. So you've got a custom set of instructions for how to forgive. Now, we'll often get people who will call. They're somewhat familiar with this work, and we'll invite them to engage in using the tools, and they'll call and they'll say, well, what do I do about this? And I'll say, well, how many worksheets have you done on that? Oh, well, I haven't actually done that, but what do I do about it? And most people don't want to hear the solution. They want to hear our agreement that somebody else is the problem in their life, and if they would just follow their directions, if they would just let these other people control them and do what they want them to do, then the problem would all be solved. But in fact, the problem wouldn't be solved. The problem that resides within you, the hostility or fear, would still be there, and once again, that hostility or fear would rouse its head, and you'd think that it was about them instead of you. So we're going to invite you to hit that link, Start Here. It'll give you the whole forgiveness process, and as you start to use that, you will find that things begin to change in your life in a most amazing way. So we welcome you to the show. And Jeanie, do we have Dr. Tim with us? Do we have David with us today? Tell us what's happening.
We It's sweet hearing her. She sounds like she's just chattering back there.
Yeah, she's kind of singing in the background, a little bit of crying once in a while, but mostly just kind of singing away.
Right. Tim is not with us. David is, and I have him turned on. And we don't have any callers with their hands up right now.
Okay, well, our calling number, if you're on a station where we don't have access to you through the switchboard or through the chat room, our calling number is 646-200-4169. If you link to, or if you give us a call into that number, 646-200-4169. Hit 1, and that will put you in queue to have a conversation with Jeanie and I. And David, how do you be, sir? What's exciting in your world today?
Well, I'm doing very well. It's beautiful, beautiful weather today. Getting ready for taking the trip and wondering how things are going for you and your daughter and phone if you visit someone.
Yeah, things are going very well here. I just picked up Adeline about 2 hours ago, and we went to the mall and kind of just walked her around in the cart, just looking at all the sights and the sounds and the smells of the mall. So I'm getting to do grandpa type things. It's pretty cool.
Wonderful. Good for you.
It is. It is. So do you have any insights for us today? Anything on your mind? I know you're getting ready to head out west to Burning Man, and I think it would be awesome if you get a chance to present some of the work, maybe take some worksheets with you, and that would be just fabulous to introduce it to that community and see how it moves in that arena.
Yeah, well, I plan to do some work while I'm out there and to invite people to go to the website and tune into the radio. So I'll see if it's going to be available.
Okay, you're kind of cutting out a little bit, David. It's hard to keep up with your words. Not sure what that's about, but anyway. So, Jeanie, do we have any callers? Is there anybody in the chat room that has a question or a thought for us?
Oh, I'm putting you on mute for a moment since she's being louder than you are. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. If you're already on the switchboard and you want to talk, please press 1. That lets us know that you do want to ask a question or make a comment, and that you're not just out there listening. We don't have very many people in the chat room today. It's kind of a quiet space. But we're glad that you all have joined us today, and we would like to hear from you. It definitely makes the conversations a little bit easier and smoother when we have people out there that are needing to ask questions. So 646-200-4169. That's 1. And it still sounds like she's pretty upset, so I'm going to put you back on mute again. And just make a few little announcements about the website. The new website is www.whyagain.org. And like Michael had said, there are still a few things that aren't up and working. You may run into a broken link. We're putting our schedule out there, and I'll eventually start making the pages on that you click on them. They're going to automatically reroute you over to .org. We are trying to get all of our archived shows up on the new site instead of the old site. So that's taking a little bit of time to do the switch over. We do have a blog and a forum out there where you can go out, you can register, and then you can make comments on the blog, and ask questions in the forum, and then they'll eventually have all of our facilitators at the different locations where they will have their own page on the website so that they can make announcements to their support groups and different things like that. So that's going to be awesome. There is a quick worksheet that if you download it to your phone, it's like a 4-stepper, so you can take it with you, have it with you wherever you go if you've got an Android or an iPhone. And so that works tremendously. You can also get the event dates on your phone so that the schedule is always right there with you. And those 2 links have been adjusted to fit onto the phones, so that's awesome. And if you go to the website over in the far top left corner, it says Start Here. If you click that, then it kind of walks you through, people say, okay, I'm new on this site. What am I supposed to do? And it starts out with, you start here by reading chapter 24, and then it goes on through the worksheet we suggest that you start with, which is the 7-step. And then all the worksheets are still listed there, so you can access all of them just like you could before, but it's laid out a little bit differently. So go out there and play around, and if you run into something, drop a line to me at Jeanie, that's Jeanie, at whyagain.com or whyagain.org. I have one on both now, so you can drop me an email and let me know what you found, and as soon as we get around to it, we will make those changes. And Michael, I was going to turn you back on. We have a caller. So area code 765, you're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi there, Jeanie. This is Sunny. Very briefly, I'm operating my store, so I have my customers in the store and a call coming in on the other line and all kinds of stuff. But my daughter's father called me last night, and apparently at the new age of 13 and 14, she and her half-sister have found themselves engaging in typical yet not acceptable teenage behavior, things like sneaking out of the house and so on in the middle of the night. So we were attempting to determine proper disciplinary action other than revoking their cell phones and computer privileges. And along with these teenage years, they get a little bit sassy and that type of thing. And I've been addressing the disrespectful mannerisms of my daughter as of late. And it occurred to me while I was talking to him, I said, I know what I think we ought to do is get out even the children's worksheet as opposed to because I did purchase the book for the children. And I just wondered what your opinion was in terms of would it not be very, most highly suggested to suggest that they might be used as an act of discipline. Like, no, you will sit down and do worksheets until you get yourself figured out, And what would be your take on that, Jeanie?
Okay. Michael, I don't know if you can speak above Addie there or not, but do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think we can do that. And my first order of thought would be, in the world, we use the word discipline to represent punishment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you that this isn't acceptable by inflicting some form of pain on you. And of course, what that teaches the child is that, here's how you control your world. You inflict pain on it. If you go to the original meaning of the word discipline, the word comes from the root disciple, which means properly taught. It does not mean properly punished or hurt or, abused in some way. And so I think that the wisest move you could make would be to do some worksheets for yourself on the inclination to punish and to move in the direction of teaching rather than punishment. And, of course, I bet as a teenager you probably never did any of those kinds of behaviors and never felt justified in them. So as you recognize that perhaps there's some projection there, you might find that as you clean those things up in yourself, you'll find that the children start to function differently because they do definitely live what it is that they've learned. So, Jeanie, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, to elaborate there, I do know that this is perhaps they do live with their father. And he has recently gone through divorce and become very heavily involved with his new love interest and very much been neglecting these girls and their need for his time and his attention. And that's why, pardon the choice of vocabulary, that is probably one of the biggest lessons I've yet to learn, to coexist and still speaking very typically. However, it was more to offer that we institute and take this opportunity to institute the worksheet as opposed to dealing with, allowing them to just vent and go off with no direction and gain nothing from their experience, as opposed to suggesting that they do start working with the worksheets to try to heal through whatever it is and still be able to express what they're feeling,
Dunny, let me offer too. Just came to me, and I don't know. Do you get them part of the time? Like, would you have an opportunity to actually sit down with them? Because the reason I ask that,
I only have access to my daughter Thursdays after school for 4 hours and every other weekend, unless, of course, it's convenient for him to have them more. So, but
I was just, my thought was, you could even have them, or even over the phone and say, this worksheet, this is going to be for me, and I want to walk through what this brought up for me. When I heard that this was the behavior that you did, then I went into, and maybe it'd be 2 worksheets, one on fear and one on anger or something like that, and you have them follow you through, have them have a worksheet in front of them, and that you're going to fill it in for what it brought up for you, and that you want them to sit there and hold the space and offer support while you work through what it brought up for you. And then possibly that might open the door then for them to say, well, Mom, I didn't realize that was, bringing up, issues for you. This is what I was thinking. And, perhaps it'll open the door for them to be more free to express, what it was. I've seen that kids, even if they're in, gangs doing something, the reason that they're doing whatever they're doing, whether it's approved behavior or not, is to try to get some kind of attention or acceptance. And so, they could be doing, it either to get someone else's acceptance or maybe to even get their father's attention or your attention that they feel like maybe they're not getting. Michael, do you have anything to add to that one?
Well, the area to start, I would offer when we had a conversation this morning, Sonny, and I defined dissociation for you, and notice that when you talk about what's happening with the girls, that your conversation automatically goes to the things that are wrong with the goals that your former husband has violated for you. Well, he's involved in his new love interest, and he's. And I would suggest that you start working on me and me and me and me, that you do the worksheet process, and I think you're right on track. Yes, introduce it to the kids and teach them to do it, but make sure you're doing it yourself, because it's going to be really hard to get them to sincerely engage it if you don't sincerely engage it. And as you model speaking about yourself rather than somebody else, you model moving into a state of responsibility rather than that dissociated state of it's all somebody else's fault. So that would be my input for you.
Yeah, and that was why, too, I was saying, perhaps if they sat with the worksheet in front of them, but you're doing the worksheet on you and what it brings up for you, then that also is a form of modeling that for them, too.
Right. It has been something that the former stepmother, she and I have been in full communication and very concerned for the girls had expressed to her that they were going to set their dad down and have a major talk with him because they had all of these feelings and, animosities going on toward the way he'd been treating things as of late. And they never did get to have that conversation, and now we're witnessing this behavior. And I'm not spoke with her as of yet, but as I said, I just, the observation more than anything is that, I really would want to offer the worksheets and have them really wrap their minds around something more constructive and nurturing than opposed to, this type of acting out or just, senseless venting that is, you know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
All righty. Well, I thank you very much. We both have
thank you for
our backgrounds here, so.
Thank you for calling in.
Am I on there, Jeanie?
Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Yes, you're on, Michael. Yes, you're on.
Okay, cool. Okay. Munchkin's just not happy here right now. But anyway, one of the other thoughts, when you look at your speech and you look at that idea of their senseless venting, then one of the other things to look at and deal with would be, have I ever done any senseless venting? And if I've done senseless venting, which is where my speech tends to come from, the things that I've done, then the projecting it onto them stops, and I get to be responsible for and clean up the part of me that thought that I could get somebody's attention or I could, whatever the goal was, that I could control the situation by senseless venting. And so as you look in that direction, you might find that the ability to inspire them to bring change is going to grow. So, cool.
Cool.
So, Jeanie, do we have anything else happening in the chat? Any callers?
No, there's the chat room is very quiet today, and we've got several people on the switchboard, but nobody else has their hand up. If you're on the switchboard and you want to speak to us, somebody just pressed 1. So another person did too. 970, you're first. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hey, Jeanie and Michael. It's Carrie in Colorado.
Hi, Carrie.
Welcome, Carrie in Colorado.
I can hear that grandbaby in the background. That's a beautiful sound.
It is.
Probably a little frustrating when they're crying, but it's still beautiful. I just wanted to share, I'm so excited. I actually just went and spent the weekend with an old friend and was able to see, I was in a situation that was a lot of, somebody I've known a long time and at a community out here, and just had such a deep realization of how much I've shifted in the last few months and how how my perspective has just hugely shifted. And a lot of things that I used to hide out in or, be kind of default mechanisms because of all this power over and old generational stuff I was carrying around. And I feel like I've shed so much. I was in those situations and I thought, I don't even look at these situations anywhere near the same way as I used to. They're like, there's nothing in me that makes me want to choose to go, I mean, some of it I think I used to want to just hide away somewhere and, on a peaceful piece of land with a bunch of nice people. And I have these really wonderful things that I want to share with the world, and I feel so much more present with that. And I think that profile that we did at the intensive really helped me access some of that stuff, and but also just doing MindShifters and worksheets and just being clear. So that's been really fun to have that awareness come up so visibly. And
well, before you move on, just a comment in that direction, and that is, when you say I have none of that in me, a year, you've been doing the worksheets now pretty sincerely for over a year. A year of cleaning out your store of its garbage. It is amazing the difference that it makes. And, there's an interesting passage, and I forget exactly where it is. I think it's in the book of Thomas, one of the books that never made it into the canonized books of the scriptures. But we hear the saying to Yeshua, the Pharisees are really down on him, and they say to him, why don't you sock it to them? Why don't you give them back some of their own medicine? And he says, I have none of that in my store. The only thing we dish up to people is what's in our store. And when you take responsibility, as you're saying and as you're seeing, there's none of that to dish up. So I don't have any need. Unless I have lashing out in my store, there's no need or reason for me to lash out. But if I come from a world where that's what's been modeled, then the tendency will be to lash out. And that's where I'll tend to get stuck. And, nice work that you're seeing yourself moving past that. And when we put community together, one of the things we know needs to happen is that everything unlike that human life state is going to come up in that community. Even the nicest people that you can find, unless they have the tools, you're going to find mass insanity, because whatever each person carries in their store, they bring into the community, and sooner or later, no matter how hard people try to keep it hidden, it's going to come to the surface, and it's going to have to be dealt with. And so the forgiveness process is about cleaning out that store and removing literally the very capacity for any form of rage, punishment, pain, anger, sadness, grief, whatever, and moving into the true experience and true expression of our human life. What is the human life? It's that awesome active presence of love that we are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. And it's so exciting to see, I feel like I'm kind of mega shifting at this point, just so much deep layers have come off. And I'm sure there's more in there that will come up. And yet when they do come up, they're so much easier to move through than they used to be. And I have to tell you this part, which is so fun. I have a circle of friends we've all been on the path, probably known each other around 30 years. And I've got, two different groups in Michigan, one in Arizona, one in Colorado, and a couple of other places, one in California. And these friends they're so much on the path, and they're already so dedicated. And, I just called them up and said, oh, man, these are the keys that we've been just looking for all these years. We've been dancing around them, and this is just a deeper level. And when I first started telling them, which was maybe, I don't know, even over the last year, but really more so in the last 6 months, and it was really hard for me at first because I just didn't have the words. I didn't know how to explain it, and I kind of stumbled around. And because they all know me and love me and know that my intentions are good, they were open to listening. But what's happened is I've gotten just this clarity, like, actually, when it boils down to it, this is really so simple. I mean, basically, we've got corrupt data in the processor. We breathe and call in Ruka Dakusha to clear it, and then we activate the filter Ruka in the frontal lobe of the brain. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about Kuba, because I'm not as familiar with that one, and I know that's for our perceptions in the back. But then when we smile, breathe, call in Ruka Dakusha, Kuba, and cancel the goals. And my friends are all getting this. They're like, oh, yeah, I can do that. And one of my friends even started singing this song about Ruka Dakusha. And then finally, when I was getting ready to hang up, this is the woman from California, of course. She said, well, Ruka on. I don't know if you've heard that one before, but it was really cute. It kind of made me just laugh. And I just realized this is so powerful, and it's so simple. And once we quit fighting it and we get put ourselves into the flow of it. And because I've kind of got the structure and be of service, and I always add that into, and we all understand that, and we like having that as a piece in there. So it's a really, just as this has gotten more clear in my mind through living it, I'm just able to share it in a light, fun way. And somebody will call me up and say, oh, so-and-so is doing something, and I'll say, well, you got to cancel the goal, breathe and smile, call in Ruka Dakusha to clear out the corrupt data. And they're like, oh, yeah, right. And really fun. So that's kind of what we've got going on in the circle of people that I know. And somebody is copying DVDs that they've made of the radio shows. Like, can only fit, CDs, she can only fit one on a CD. But and she's sending them on to another friend of mine who doesn't have a computer. And so there's this just little circle going of people sharing with each other and loving the shifts that are going on. So
that's awesome.
So excited.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it is pretty cool. If you look in the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, I talk about the idea that to a complex mind, the truth is made complex. And what this world specializes in doing is keeping us in complexity and confusion so that we can't get clarity on the things that are so simple. And when you hang around the work long enough, as you have done, and you actually do the work, you put the pen to the paper, all of a sudden the confusion disappears. And it is ABC, so simple. I remember back, a few years ago, I was actually down in Key West, and there was a woman who brought her Cuban husband to the workshop. He didn't want to come. She kind of forced him to come. And they're sitting up near the front of the workshop room, and I'm talking about Ruka and Kuba, and he's kind of dozed off to sleep. It's like he doesn't want to be there, and he checks out. But he comes back just as I'm talking about Ruka and Kuba, and he turns to his wife and whispers, loud enough so most everybody in here can hear him. What's he doing talking about a rock band in Cuba? So his brain cells fire just a little differently on Ruka and Kuba. But Ruka, for those who are listening, Ruka is literally, in the ancient Aramaic, it's the word that was used when they said to Yeshua, what's most important to a human life. What's most important in this whole body of law that you're talking about? He says the first thing is you've got to have Rahma when you think of the creator, neighbor, or self. And that word is literally representative of a filter in the frontal lobes of the brain that allows that part of the brain to only serve up intentions that are keyed to love. And intentions are the raw material of our goals. And you remember we started out the workshop with, the show with the importance of goals. And so the quality of our goals determines the quality of our perception. So once a Rahma is set, the only intentions, that the mind can use in forming its goals are those that are keyed to love. And once you do that, then your goals are loving, and that tends to activate a second filter that's in the back of the brain over perception. It was called Kuba. Now, in the Aramaic, in the Greek translation of those ancient teachings, it sounds like this is something you do for your neighbor, because it says, in the Greek translations, you must love the creator, neighbor, and self. But in Aramaic, that's not what it says at all, and it has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with loving your neighbor. Nothing whatsoever to do with it. I remember this probably goes back a year or so ago, to a radio show, and this guy's on there who's chiding and deriding those idiot people who would actually listen to a guy who says you got to love all your neighbors. Like, man, what a dunce that guy is. But if people only knew that what he was giving is the key to human life. In the ancient Aramaic, this filter, Rahma, is the gateway for human life to enter into our forms. It's how you maintain a human life. It's got nothing to do with your behavior toward your neighbor or the creator, and it doesn't say to do that for yourself. What it says in Aramaic is you must have this filter and gateway active in you when you think of the creator or neighbor so as to maintain your human life. So when you have this active in you, you've got the gateway for human life to enter. If you take a look around the planet, let's see how much active love you find that's actually functioning in that way. There's not a whole lot of it left. And people talk about conspiracy theorists and how those idiots that believe in conspiracies are people who are trying to do something crazy to you. Well, excuse me. The conspiracy is not a theory. It is absolute. And I can give you a piece of research to do, and I guarantee that if you go do that research in the next hour or next week or next month or next year, and you hand it to literally 100 or 1,000 of your friends and make an appointment, get 1,000 people to agree to do this piece of research, and then make an appointment a week from now for those 1,000 people to come back together, I guarantee the research will be absolutely 100% identical for every person. Here's the research I invite you into. Take a piece of paper, draw a 1/4 inch margin down the left side of the page. Then sit in front of your television set, that stranger that virtually everybody in the country invites into their home and has never interviewed one person who's going to come into their home through that stranger called the television set. And sit in front of the set, spend no more than 3 minutes on any one channel. Just flip from channel to channel to channel, spend 2 or 3 minutes on each one, and every time you hear a word that is keyed to the actual presence of love, to real, true human life, like the newborn, put a check mark in that 1/4 inch margin. And then every time you hear a word that's based in some form of hostility or fear, put a check mark to the right of that column. I guarantee in a week when everybody comes back together, people will have 3 pages filled with check marks about hostility or fear, and they won't have one column filled with words that actually represent the active presence of love, human life. Now, that's called a conspiracy. Now, you don't have to have a bunch of people who get together in a dark room and go, oh, let's do this to people. All you have to do is convince people to live in hostility or fear to produce that result. And as you do that, and you go back, and the reason why I say do this research on words is the physicist, physiologist, psychologist that sourced the teaching that we're working with in the ancient Aramaic said this: your words hold the power of life and death. If you look, there is a conspiracy of death upon planet Earth. If you look at the words, the hostility and fear, and you'll notice that it's always words about somebody else. It's never words where somebody says, well, you know, Charlie, when you violated my goal, it really brought up a lot of rage for me, and what I know I need to do is heal my rage. What I know is I need to reclaim my human life and function as love. What's everybody saying? What are the words of the culture? It's all denial and dissociation. How do you deny? You have some form of turmoil, and you talk about somebody else. So you'll notice in sitcom, everybody who's taking a vicious, sarcastic shot at their parents, their children, their spouses, their friends, their lovers, you'll notice that those words of hostility, and that's what sarcasm is, are frequencies that are being sown into their own fields that destroy them. Now, we've been brought up in a culture that's based in insanity and the eradication of human life. It takes a little bit of time to be restored to human life. It takes a little bit of time to reclaim your human life and come back to the words that are based in the human presence of love. And to change the habits of the mind, there is a reliable system for doing that. Most people won't hang around long enough to build the brain cells for that. And if you listen to Yeshua 2,000 years ago, he said, in order to use my teaching, you've got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. If your eyes and ears are about hostility and fear and the insanity of the world, then you'll think somebody else has to change for you to be happy. When you recognize that absolutely nobody needs to change, everybody in your life can keep functioning exactly and precisely the way they are, and you can shift what happens inside of you. That's what will change the world. That's why we're inviting the show to be part of the team that changed the world, to be one who says, you know what, I'm going to live a human life. And Carrie, I so much appreciate the work that you're doing in the world and the fact that you're on our team for taking this planet-wide. Your book, had lots of people who bought your book on super immunity from us, who just love it, who love the recipes. And you can go to Carrie's website, which is carrieellis.com. Find her book on super immunity, and soon to be published, The 21st Century Human. How's that book coming, Carrie?
21st Century Superhuman. It's coming great. And really, 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 I feel like I've had that book in process for years, but I wrestled over it because I didn't feel like I had the core concept I wanted to share with people, and now I do from the Aramaic, and I'm so excited. It's just like bursting forth, and I'm really excited.
Cool.
That's done. And,
fabulous. And if you'd like us to contribute a chapter on forgiveness, because without forgiveness we couldn't have a 21st century superhuman, we'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. That would be awesome, and it will fit right in. And I'm sure once I get the book done, I'll send it to you to just review and say, you know, you see anything in here that's off, or that, you know, I don't want you to feel like I'm, like, taking what you're teaching, but you've been a great teacher for me to access this information. So I'm really excited.
And what I would love to have happen is for every author in the world to take this work, make it their own, and put it into their material, because that's what's going to change the world. This isn't about a proprietary, you know, that's why our travel workshops, 99% of our travel workshops are done free. By the way, we're heading west this year. If anybody's listening to the show and wants to invite us, just give us an invitation. We pay our own expenses. The workshops are done free. That's why all the materials, the radio shows are there for free download. You can download my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, free from the website, www.whyagain.org. There are videos, there are audios. The idea is, and the thing that for me, and I'm kind of, reminded of it as I'm here now with my 8-month-old granddaughter was when my son was born. I can remember looking around at the state of the world and saying, this is insane. Somebody better do something. And I was the only one there listening. And so the development of this work and taking it globally the way that we are. And by the way, you can download the book free from the website in English, Russian, Spanish, German. You can't download the Swedish version. Unfortunately, the Swedish publisher wouldn't let us put it on the website free, or it would be there. In Farsi, there's part of the book in French. There's part of the book in Thai. We're working on those translations. So, the idea is to take it and, we need to get to critical mass. We need to make a shift here, or, this little 8-month-old that I'm with right now isn't going to have a chance because
Hey, Michael, I'd just like to say, too, because of the beautiful .org new website, I was really called in to read the section on the Kabur manuscript, and it's so good. I just want to compliment you guys on the work on that. It's just brilliant, and for somebody who wants to dig in deeper into stuff, it's so good.
That's true, and you can actually access and look at all 500 pages of the manuscript on our website. We're actually working also on a key, a USB key that we'll be making available to people that they'll be able to go onto the Scholars area of the site where there'll be high-res images for people to do translation work from the Aramaic. The text has been only partially translated. One of the projects we're working on is putting together a team to continue the translation work. We don't know from the Aramaic what we don't know yet, but the key ideas we have found are Rachma and Kuban. It's interesting. There's an Aramaic community in Southern California, and we visited with some of these folks back a couple of years ago, and we asked them about this word Rachma. And basically what they said was that its meaning had been lost to modern times and modern language. Nobody knew what the word meant, but that their tradition said it was the most valuable jewel, the most precious jewel that you could have. And this jewel resides right in the frontal lobes of our brain, and it's under our total, complete, absolute control, unless we're in denial and dissociation and blaming somebody else for what's going on in us. That's a filter that we can maintain continuously and therefore live a human life continuously. And, when the master said, the physicist said, a little leavening leavens the whole loaf, he was not talking about bread, he was talking about critical mass in physics. And what we're looking to do is to create a critical mass of people who live, truly live as humans, truly live as the active presence of love, truly clean out of their store every hostile, fearful, rage, grief, and pain-based thought and word, every frequency based in something other than human life and love, and actually begin to express, even in the situations where people aren't achieving any of the goals you want them to achieve for you, that you take responsibility for, you maintain this condition in your mind, in your physiology, your health will improve, your intelligence will improve, all things will move forward. And that's what we're here to support, is getting out of the projection game, getting out of the game of denial and dissociation, you made me, into, here I am in my grief, rage, hate, fear, anger, hostility again, and my mind is telling me that it's all about somebody else instead of what's going on inside of me. So let me talk about them. And when I talk about them, I have no possibility of accessing and changing the part of me that has the problem. And so that's what our radio show is about. That's what our work together is about.
And we do have another caller.
Oh, cool. Let's go for it.
Area code 541, you're on the air.
Hi, Carrie. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jeanie. It's Julie from Ashland, Oregon.
Hi,
Hey
Julie.
there, Julie from Ashland, Oregon. How do you be, young lady?
I'm very
delighted in
good.
getting text from you every day that you've completed your 5 worksheets.
Yeah, it feels good. I feel in integrity. Actually, I'm working on 10 today because I missed yesterday, but that's fine. I really like doing them, and when I do 10, I really get somewhere too. So that might be my new habit eventually. Anyway, when Sunny was on earlier, and I really appreciate what you were talking about, Raka and Kuba, because I've had a hunch that that's what I needed, and some of my past worksheets I was looking back on, wanting to know more about how to work with those two factors. So you did explain it today. I appreciate it. Sunny had brought up this idea of senseless venting, and you suggested to do a worksheet. And so I started doing a worksheet on it because I had an instance over the weekend, too, where I don't have to name people, I guess, but I saw a certain couple of people bullying another set of people, and it was not physical. It was adjacent campsites where we were sitting at our camp already set up, and they were trying to set up their tent, and there were like 10 people trying to figure out how to set up this tent. And so the two people that I was camping with sat there and were sarcastic about how stupid they were and how we would have had it. My friends would have had it set up by now, and just comment after comment like it was entertainment to them. And so I jumped in defensive, not knowing I was actually being driven by my own internal reality because I thought I was going to fix and change their reality by telling them that they were being angry and hostile towards them, even if it was indirect, that it wasn't kind of them to be making these remarks, and why didn't they go over and help them if that's why didn't they have a more loving intent? So they said that would be more, worse, because that would be insulting to them. And yet they were sitting there insulting them from a distance. And so I know how energy works to some extent, and I thought it was exactly the same thing. However, the more I got into trying to prove it to them that they were, out of line and that I didn't like being around that kind of energy, I got to see that I was projecting from my own past of being bullied and not, and that condescending remarks. And I learned I have that in my background, and I haven't even looked at it yet on a worksheet. So it brought it up for me, and I did do worksheets on it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because all of my venting with them didn't get anywhere because they cleverly would dodge any of my accusations. They, in their mind, they weren't doing anything wrong, so I couldn't prove anything to them, and I kept getting the toxicity of my own pain first. I got the original, and I finally had to give up because it was true that I was coming from my own perceptions and my own pain, regardless of what was actually going on. And I could not do anything about what I saw as actually going on. I could only retreat and stop my behavior. And then I did a worksheet, and I got back to love, and I did go and apologize to them, saying that clearly I need to do some work on this sort of thing, and I do need to do some healing on myself, and that I was attacking them with my reality. Well, so I felt better, okay? However, they didn't feel good for the next 12 or 24 hours. I could see that that it was working in them, that I might have pointed out a little bit of truth. But what I don't like about the whole thing is that I used that, I attacked with that, and I want to be loving and more effective if I'm going to try to teach someone how to change their behavior. And so I worked on a few worksheets with that, too. And I finally got to see that it's not my responsibility to teach them about how to make me feel better. You say this all the time. And so I was actually trying to blame them for how I felt. And I guess where I am now is a little more empowered to allow others to simply be even if I see that it probably isn't serving them that well, I can at least go in and see my own healing opportunity and stay in my own ground of being, of love. And I don't know. I don't know if anything else will shift, but that's pretty good. There,
yeah, nice catch, Julie. That's awesome to get that insight. And, you know, one of the things you know is that sitting there with that sarcastic response is that they were under stress. And my offering would be the reason they were under stress because in the times in their lives where they haven't been capable, where there's been knowledge that they didn't have, I guarantee that they had a power person who derided them, chided them, looked down on them, ridiculed them. And so a way to open a space, if it's appropriate to open a space for somebody who's in that posture, can be simply to ask the question, well, how did it feel? You know, you look at the way you're chiding these people and looking down at them and speaking down to them. How did it feel when your power person did that to you? And that can be a big short circuit to that kind of, you know, really vicious behavior towards someone that you don't even know. How did it feel when your power person spoke about you and to you that way? And if there are any ears for listening, that's going to stop them in their tracks, and they're going to stop to go, oh my God, that's exactly what Dad, Mom, Big Brother, Big Sister used to do to me. Wow. And how did it feel? I hated it. That was painful. That was really nasty. So notice that you've become what you hate. And so there's a tool with which you can start to remove that hatred, that fear, which puts you in the same cycle as your power person was in, that when they did it to you, you detested what they were doing to you. And so that could be another way to open the space for them to see the impact of their behavior, to start to comprehend that, and to provide them with an alternative. Gee, you know, come here. Let me take you by the hand. Let's go over. You know how to set up a tent? I don't think these people would be insulted at all. I think we could go over, and as neighbors, in a neighborly way, we could say, gee, you know, we just put our tent up and had some practice at it. Can we help? I don't know too many people that would be insulted by somebody who comes over in a cheery, positive mode and says, gee, can we help? And so I admire you and acknowledge you for your perceptiveness to shift from it was about them to back to a conversation about you, which opens a space for your healing. And in so doing, you come out of dissociation and clean up that part. I mean, that is life-changing, young lady. That's just awesome. I admire your intelligence and how many levels and layers of insight you bring to this work. I've watched you for over a year with it now, and it's pretty powerful, pretty cool. So any other thoughts?
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.
Across Tennessee, businesses thrive on strength, resilience, and leadership. No one embodies these qualities better than veterans. They've served our country with honor and are ready to serve your business with the same commitment. Now you can go from veteran-friendly to veteran-ready with the Tennessee Veteran Ready Business Recognition Program. Becoming a veteran-ready business will increase your ability to recruit, hire, and retain service members, veterans, and their families. Learn more at tn.gov/veteran from the Tennessee Department of Veteran Services.